So you're working hard, but it feels like you're going nowhere. You end the day exhausted, but not fulfilled. You're busy, but your life isn't actually changing. You can grind all day, doing assignments, answering messages, or working out, and still feel stuck. And I used to live like this. I'd finish the day thinking I worked really hard, but then I looked back, and nothing had really changed. And that's the frustrating part. You're not lazy or unmotivated. You're putting in the effort, but you're just not building anything. And let me tell you why. Picture this. You've just gotten home from school or work, and you have 5 hours to spend on what you actually care about. You snack and scroll for 45 minutes, and then get to work. You work for 25 minutes, and then you go do the laundry and do some other tasks for like 15 or 20 minutes, and then you take a break and go snack and scroll again for another 45 minutes before hitting another 30 minutes of work. And 3 hours later, you've maybe gotten an hour of work done. You feel busy, but you're not actually moving anything important forward. And maybe you're actually working for 2 or 2.5 hours out of those 3 hours, but you're just checking off easy tasks instead of actually doing the thing that's important that you need to get done in order to move forward. You're doing the laundry, answering those emails, getting in that small assignment, or organizing things, but you keep pushing back the thing that actually matters. And by the time you actually get to it, you're tired, so you rush. And that's where the results are being lost. You're spending your best energy on the small things, and your leftover energy is going to the things that actually matter. In his book, Deep Work, Cal Newport writes, "Clarity about what matters provides clarity about what does not." You can be busy all day, but 2 hours of deep work is going to be much more effective than 6 hours of bouncing around. Not because you're working more, but because you're working on what actually counts. And maybe you're making enough time for deep work every day, but you still don't feel like you're moving forward. I'll get into why this may be in a second, but first, here are 3 simple tips to create the optimal deep work environment. Alright, firstly, this one might be obvious, but it's probably the most important one. Remove the phone. You've heard it before. Get it as far away as possible in the other room. It's just going to be a huge distraction, so remove the phone. Alright, next, something I like to do is just write down the target or targets that I plan to achieve during the time that I'm working. This one's short and simple, but it keeps you on task subconsciously. Alright, the third tip for creating an environment of deep work is to set a timer. And this time block is non-negotiable. If you think of something that's important but not immediately urgent, just write it down and keep working. You don't want to exit the deep work. And here's one extra tip. A 60 or 90 minute time block may seem really daunting. So I'd recommend just setting a timer for like 5 or 10 minutes just to get started and to get into that flow. And once that timer's over, you already started, which is the hardest part, and it's so much easier to keep going for the 60 or 90 minutes. And don't think about 45 minutes from now, but just think about right now. Deep work is best when you're fully engaged in the present. Alright, well, what if you're making enough time for deep work, but yet you still feel behind? Why is that? It's because progress is usually invisible in the short term. We all love daily proof. The boxes checked, assignments done, the numbers are going up, but real progress and transformation doesn't show up daily. It compounds. You don't build visible muscle after one workout. You don't start a business in a week. Checking the box is the input, but progress is what happens after 50 inputs. The reason you feel stagnant is often because you're measuring too frequently. Your emotions operate daily, but progress shows up weekly or monthly. If you constantly rely on how you feel at the end of the day, you'll always feel behind. So how do we fix this? Well, I'd recommend starting with a weekly tracker. Once a week, track 3 to 5 areas tied to your long-term goals. You just want to write a few sentences about where you are, let's say in your fitness life, or in a particular skill or hobby, or in your work life. You want to keep it simple. This should only take like 5 minutes or 10 minutes a week. And you shouldn't compare one week to the week before. That's not enough time to see the real progress. You should compare that week to like 3 or 10 or 50 weeks before, because that's where you're actually going to see some progress. And to be clear, this is not something you should base your entire life on, because your value does not come from achievement. No, it comes from God's love. This is just a tracker, a tool to help you visualize your progress and hold yourself accountable. Now, if you do all this, you're actually seeing the tangible progress, but you still feel behind. This is probably a deeper issue. Take a step back and think about why you're actually doing the work. Is it to feed your ego? To earn your worth? If this is the case, you're never going to feel caught up, because achievement is not going to give you the peace you're looking for. And that's because work can become an idol. It's a gift. It's a way to worship God, but it's a terrible God itself. When your identity is an achievement, you'll always feel behind. But when your identity is in the one who created you and loves you more than you can even process, then you'll start working from peace and not for peace. So, what does the Bible say about work? Well, Colossians 3:23 says, "Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for human masters." Notice what Paul is saying here. Whatever you do. Homework, training, business, answering emails, playing guitar. Not just spiritual things, but all things. And work with excellence and intention. Because work done for the Lord with wholehearted effort becomes worship. Well, how do we work for the Lord? I think this quote by Eric Liddell, the Olympic gold medalist runner from the movie Chariots of Fire, I think this quote can demonstrate it pretty well. It says, "I believe God made me for a purpose, but He also made me fast. And when I run, I feel His pleasure." Work is an opportunity to use our gifts and reflect God's character and serve others. Deep work isn't just productivity, it's stewardship for God. One more verse about work from the Bible is Galatians 6:9. It says, "Let us not grow weary in doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up." This one emphasizes consistency and how progress appears over time. You shouldn't plant a seed and then go dig it up and see if it's grown the next day. No, God designed growth to be gradual. Whether it's physical growth, skill growth, business growth, or spiritual growth, growth is always gradual. Alright, here's some key recap points from this video. Firstly, don't chase being busy, chase depth. Next, don't expect tangible progress immediately, because a tree grows its roots before it grows up. Alright, next, track progress weekly so that you can see progress and tell when you're becoming stagnant. Character growth is most important, and sometimes it takes failure to grow. And finally, worship God through work, because work is a bad God. Alright, thanks guys so much for watching, and remember, do not grow weary in doing good, because in due season you will reap.